Have you ever pushed yourself to be the loudest person in the room, only to realize you are completely invisible? It is a cold realization. You talk faster and laugh harder, assuming volume equals value. But instead of standing out, you just become background noise. Humans are social creatures, biologically hardwired to fill empty space. When a pause happens in conversation, our instincts scream at us to jump in. If you deliberately withhold your noise, if you refuse to fill that void, you trigger a psychological glitch. You alter the social gravity in the room. We are going to prepare you for a 1-hour challenge. It is called the Silent Anchor Protocol. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to use active listening to dismantle your own conversational ego and change how people interact with you. Social influence does not come from dominating the airwaves. It comes from becoming the quiet, grounded center of gravity in a very loud room. Step 1 is setting your parameters. Choose a specific, low-stakes interaction lasting at least 1 hour, a dinner with friends, or a weekly team meeting. When you enter that environment, you must leave your usual high-energy social mask at the door. Now for the primary physical mechanic. When someone speaks to you, keep your back straight, leave your hands visible, and maintain steady eye contact. Before you reply, you are going to enforce a strict 3 to 5 second pause. 5 seconds of dead air in the middle of a conversation feels agonizing. You will feel like you are screaming inside, and you will desperately want to jump in just to kill the tension. That tension is called the vacuum effect. As you stop emitting signals, a negative space forms, creating social pressure. To relieve that pressure, the speaker instinctively begins adding unplanned details, over-explaining their position just to keep the air from going dead. Your primary point of failure here is your own internal panic. The urge to fidget, nod frantically, or speak early will be overwhelming. You have to resist it. Enduring the discomfort of those first 5 seconds is the mandatory toll. Once you pay it, you bypass the superficial small talk and move the interaction into more genuine territory. While you hold that pause, you have to execute an internal shift. Most of us default to listening to win. We wait for our turn to speak, preparing our rebuttal. You need to switch to listening to hear, identifying the emotional subtext beneath their words. If you hold the space correctly, you will see outward indicators of success. Watch closely, and you will notice the other person drop their polite, rehearsed retail mask. But there is a trap here. When you see others lower their demands or fumble over their words because you will not reply fast enough, you might feel a rush of control. Using calculated silence merely to make others squirm is a manipulation that only feeds your ego. This brings us to the foundational rule of practice. The objective of being quiet is not to force people to look at you. It is to create the mental space required for you to finally look at them. If you use silence as a wall, you isolate and dominate. But if you use it as a mirror, you force accountability and create the conditions for empathy. Eventually, you do have to speak. This is the anchor response. It is the precise moment you break the silence, and you must do it without offering a counterstory, an excuse, or a competitive anecdote. Instead, keep it simple and focused entirely on them. If you are with a loved one, offer simple validation like, "I hear you." If you are with a stranger, ask a probing question about what they just said. Standard conversation is chaotic. Everyone talks over each other, waiting to interject. The anchor response cuts right through that noise, offering clear, unbroken focus. The physical reaction is immediate. The room quiets, people lean in, and colleagues discuss your point instead of talking over you. A single, carefully chosen sentence, delivered after a weighted silence, carries a degree of authority that an hour of constant chatter cannot match. There is an uncomfortable social reality to this challenge. Once you shed your role as the constant entertainer who fills awkward gaps, superficial friends will likely drift away. That separation can be difficult, but it is a necessary step. You have to learn the difference between actual friends and people who simply use you as an audience. When your experiment is over, sit quietly and audit your own ego. Ask yourself a hard question. Am I speaking to add value, or am I just terrified of being forgotten? Here is your final directive. Choose your 1-hour window today. Drop the performance, hold silence, and evaluate what happens. In a world where everyone is a literal open book, the person who knows when to be silent becomes a landmark. You stop being a distraction and start being the person others look to when they really want to be heard.